This is Ishan. He is so bad at school that he has just repeated the second grade. Unlike other children who might spend their days playing games or playing with friends, Ishan doesn't engage in these activities, nor does he have any friends. Ishan's parents don't know why he is having such a hard time, but they are about to find out in a surprising way. So this is what a typical school day of Ishan looks like. He listens to all the results of the tests and he discovers that he has the worst grades among everyone. All the teachers and tutors yell at him, and kids his age avoid him because he behaves strangely. But despite this, Ishan remains a happy child who laughs when he sees dogs and plays with them in the yard. On the other hand, he completely forgets that school documents cannot be used as toys. Usually, his mind is always elsewhere and he forgets everything, just as washing his hands before eating, turning off the tap, and telling his parents to sign his exam results. But Johan, Ishan's brother, is his complete opposite. He loves everything about school and is the pride of his parents. You would think that he doesn't like Ishan, but quite the opposite. His brother seems to be the only one who doesn't blame him for being the way he is. One day, Ishan has completely forgotten his homework, and he runs outside towards the dogs. While he is busy with them, the guys in the neighborhood are playing cricket. Suddenly, the ball falls close to Ishan, and the other guys ask him to give them the ball back. But Ishan misses, and this annoys the leader of the small group, and he tells Ishan to go get the ball right away. Ishan doesn't know how to react to such aggressive behavior, and he doesn't say a word, which irritates the bully even more. They fight and Ishan barely escapes. He comes home beaten and in tears, but with a kite that he accidentally caught. But he encounters problems before even entering the apartment. In the hallway, he hears a neighbor complaining to his mother and saying that he broke all her flowers. Apparently, this neighbor is the tyrant's mother. The kid lied in front of his parents saying that Ishan hit him, and then the boy's parents leave the house to avoid something else from happening. Then the father scolds his son. He says everyone complains about him every day, and he promises his son that he will send him to boarding school if he doesn't change his behavior. On the other hand, Ishan's mother takes pity on her son and cleans his wounds and calms him. The next morning, Ishan's father leaves on a business trip for a few days. The boy's mother manages to set the table twice and send her husband to work and his older brother to school. And it's only afterward that she remembers the youngest, who was sleeping peacefully in his bed. To succeed in sending him to school, his mother must constantly distract him from the fantasies and nastiness that happen daily. At school, Ishan had to face additional challenges. While everyone listens to the teacher, the boy is fascinated as he looks out the window and starts to drift off into a dream. And when the teacher calls him and asks him to read the sentence, he can't do it. Ishan says that the letters from the textbook are dancing in front of him and others make fun of him because of that. The teacher doesn't believe him and he shouts at him. But Ishan reacts differently to this behavior. Ishan is kicked out of the classroom. At the next class, he realizes that he hasn't done his math homework and hasn't had his parents sign his tests. The boy, in despair, finds nothing better to do than run away to town. There he observes street vendors, painters, construction workers, and pedestrians, and he enjoys the solitude and tranquility. At home, Ishan spends all his free time drawing, and when it's time to check his homework, he just listens to his mother shouting at him. She doesn't understand how he could have misspelled all the words, and she's sure that her son will repeat the grade again. In the middle of the night, Ishan wakes up his brother and tells him that he ran away from school. Today, his older brother is shocked and tells him that it's dangerous to be alone since a car could hit him or someone could take him away. But what is done, and now Ishan requests his brother,
वो absent note लिख दो ना दादा.
क्या?
Johan, who initially comes up with excuses to avoid it. However, eventually, Ishan manages to convince Johan to pen a detailed note. Johan writes it with such meticulous care that Ishan's teacher doesn't realize the note is forged. Then she gives a math test that will erase the entire semester's results to the class. But instead of tackling the questions like everyone else, Ishan makes up space adventures in his head and just gives a wrong answer. Soon, the distant father returns from a business trip. Ishan is super happy that his father is coming back, but his joy doesn't last long. This is where Mr. Awasti finds something interesting on the ground. He understands the deception. Under the pressure of his father's shouts, Ishan tells the whole truth that he walked alone in the city instead of staying in class. But that's not the only frustrating news his parents will learn. A few days later, they find themselves in the principal's office where Ishan's teachers tell them about his terrible grades. We learn that he has made no progress since last year, and that he is still making the same mistakes. In addition, the parents discovered that Ishan did not bring them any documents to sign. The principal speaks, alluding to the boy's expulsion. If he continues like this, they better send him to a specialized institution.
Thinks my son is a retard. सोचती है मेरा बेटा normal नहीं.
But his father doesn't even want to hear about sending Ishan to an institution for children with special needs. That same evening, he calls his friend, and they make a deal to transfer his son to an all-boys boarding school. His wife tries to persuade him to change his mind, saying their son has never been away from the family before, and sending him to another school in the middle of the school year is very stressful, but the father does not give up. He isn't even touched by his son's uncontrollable tears. For weeks, Ishan suffers from nightmares, and he tries to convince his mother not to send him to boarding school. At one point, it looks like she's about to listen to her son, but once again, he gets into trouble. He throws a firecracker at the tyrant. After some days, they find themselves in a huge academic building where students are obliged to obey strict rules and maintain a high level of order. Therefore, Ishan begins his new life feeling just as alone as before. The boy cries constantly and can't understand why his parents left him. Meanwhile, his mother is very nervous too. She finds her son's drawings where she sees him apart from the rest of the family, and she wonders if they made the right choices. At boarding school, Ishan takes even more blame than at the previous school. Now he is scolded not only because he is bad at class, but also because he does not know how to tie his tie. In class, the boy sits next to Ryan, the best student in the class, who tries to cheer him up. He tells his new friend that this school is not necessarily a punishment. There are also good things, but it's difficult to see the good side of things when everyone is shouting at him and making fun of him. And the art teacher hits the students on the knuckles with a ruler when they can't do it. As a result, Ishan becomes more and more withdrawn into himself. When his parents come to visit him for the first time, he runs away to the playground and refuses to talk to them. He's not even happy with the watercolor set Johan gives him. The boy doesn't want to go to class anymore, especially not art class. But we learn later that the old mean teacher was sent to New Zealand and that a new teacher replaced him. Ryan happily leads Ishan to class, not even suspecting the surprise that awaits them. The new teacher is completely different from the others. He shows up in class with a flute and in a circus costume. He sings songs with the children, then invites them to draw whatever comes to mind. But Ishan doesn't watch the fun performance and he doesn't want to paint. The next day, the art teacher catches up with Ryan and asks him why his office partner is so calm. The boy explains that Ishan really wants to go home because he is brand new here. Ram wonders why anyone would transfer a child to a new school in the middle of a school year. But Ryan tells him that his friend doesn't know how to write and read, and that's why he was expelled from the other school. Ram rushes to the staff room to look at Ishan's notebooks, and he can't believe his eyes. The boy writes the same word in 3 different ways. Later, Ram goes to a special school where he works most of the time. There, he talks with his colleague, and he says that he met a boy at the boarding school who reminds him of himself. With tears in his eyes, Ram explains that the boy doesn't say a word, but his eyes are begging for help. Without thinking twice, Ram decides to go to Ishan's parents to tell them about all this. There he sees a lot of drawings and he asks who is the author. When Ishan's mother says it's her son, he can't believe his ears since the boy hasn't drawn a single line in his class. Ram asks Ishan's parents why they sent him so far. The father begins to complain that he had no other choice and that their son was mean and lazy and says that he would have repeated his 2nd grade again. But Ram disagrees with him. He believes that all of these problems are symptoms, not the cause. The teacher explains that there is a pattern to the boy's mistakes. He just confuses similar letters. He has dyslexia, but Ishan's father is not convinced by this answer because he is convinced that the teacher is just making excuses for him. Ram then asks Mr. Awasti to read the description of the box in Chinese, and when Mr. Awasti says he can't, the teacher scolds him.
कुछ ऐसी ही कैफियत होती होगी ईशान की.
Ram says that Ishan's dyslexia not only prevents him from reading or writing well, but also limits his ability to perform small manual tasks, like tying his tie or shoelaces. It's very difficult to imagine what he feels, especially since no one supports the boy. Maybe that's why he stopped drawing, Ram says. But Mr. Awasti doesn't care much about the drawing. He wants his son to succeed and be normal. Ram says all children are different and Ishan has a special gift. The father has nothing to say. The next day, Ram brings Ishan's drawing book to class and he secretly shows it to the boy. Then he begins the lesson with an unusual story about a child who could neither read nor write. But even though everyone made fun of him, he grew up to be a wonderful person. But who is this story about?
Albert Einstein
Ram starts telling lots of stories about the most famous people who couldn't write well when they were younger, like Leonardo da Vinci, Walt Disney, Pablo Picasso, and Agatha Christie. The teacher says that through his stories he wanted to teach children that some people look at the world in a completely different way, and that there is nothing wrong with that. Just because a person doesn't understand them doesn't mean they're good for nothing. Ram then tells the children that they will have a lesson outside today. But before leaving the classroom, he calls Ishan. He tells him that he forgot to mention another name among the dyslexics, even though he is less well known. He had the same reading and writing problems as a child, and his father thought he was an imbecile. But he grew up and understood everything. The kind teacher seems to inspire Ishan to make a beautiful raft that floats on a pond, which delights all his classmates during the lesson. Ram goes to the boarding school principal and says that he wants to discuss Ishan's academic performance. The principal is already thinking that the teacher has come to complain like all the others. Apparently, he was already thinking of deporting the poor boy, but Ram interrupts him. He believes that this child's intelligence is well above average, but that there are just some difficulties with writing. The art teacher suggests the following plan. He will take Ishan and teach him writing, reading, and math for several hours a week, and in the meantime, the other teachers will just ask the boy verbal questions to. The director doubts the success of this plan, but Ram shows him Ishan's drawings and manages to convince him to give the gifted boy a second chance to him. Ram and Ishan start their private lessons. They learn letters and numbers using sand paints and plasticine, and the boy quickly begins to show signs of improvement. Now he can read entire sentences and write without mistakes. He even manages to change his own clothes, tie his shoelaces, and comb his hair. A few months later, Ram announced an artist competition at the school for all interested. Hundreds of students, boarding school teachers, and even Ram participated in the competition. Only Ishan is missing. His teacher starts to stress, and Ryan tells him that his friend left school before dawn. The moment Ram stops believing in the arrival of his favorite student, Ishan finally arrives at the amphitheater. He sits away from everyone, takes the paints his brother gave him, and starts painting what he had gone to see before the whole campus wakes up. He creates a breathtaking painting, which leaves the teacher speechless. He also did something special for his students. The announcement of the results begins. The director says that Madame Lashmi, the judge of the competition, only knew how to choose between two works at the last moment. She had to choose between the teacher's drawing and that of his student. But after a lot of consideration, she managed to make a decision, and she gives the first prize to Ishan. The room bursts into applause. The students and teachers applaud the young artist, but he hides somewhere in the crowd, away from everyone's attention. Ishan ends up gathering his courage and going on stage, where he receives the prize from his teacher before hugging him with tears in his eyes. At the end of the semester, everyone goes home. Ishan's parents arrive at the boarding school and meet the principal, who shows them a new issue of the school yearbook with a photo of their son on the cover and his picture on the back. Everyone admires Ishan, even the students and adults who once considered the boy a hopeless case. The boy says goodbye to his teacher, then he comes home for the holidays, very happy. Have you ever encountered difficulties at school? Tell me your story in the comments. Who knows, maybe she'll cheer someone up. And subscribe to the channel if you want to see more movie recaps. Thank you for watching.